I was promised some choking these episodes, and I did not get any choking. Welcome back to the Miscellaneous channel where we do miscellaneous things. I'm Zeleny. I typically cover TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things on this channel, so subscribe if that's your vibe. So we are back talking about Love is Blind Season 6, Episodes 7 through 9. It's nice. The first batch of episodes was a lot of pods. Pod recaps are always so chaotic because there's so many love triangles going on, but now I feel like we've settled into the season. It's going good. It's getting really messy, really juicy. So kick back, pop some popcorn, drink your wine, whatever it is, and let's get into talking about these episodes. I'm still very much enjoying this season. It is staying true to general Love is Blind fashion. There's people I'm rooting for, couples that just seem messy and toxic, fights, drama, friends and family coming in with their opinions. Everything we know and love about this show. I did forget to mention in my previous video that this season takes place in Charlotte, North Carolina. We see that in this batch of episodes. They go from the honeymoons into the real world, moving in together. I got a lot of comments mentioning that that region is more conservative and very Christian, so it makes sense why there were a lot of Christians on this season. I do live in Texas, I don't know if y'all know that, so I'm very familiar. And I'm pretty sure seasons 3 and 5 of Love is Blind also had quite a few conservative and maybe Christian people on it. They just didn't really show us that back then. Maybe they didn't become that relevant to the couples, but I do feel like they made the choice this season to show us a little bit more of like political or religious topics within the pods and the couples. And let me just get my disclaimer out of the way yet again. Remember, we are just judging edited versions of these real people. People are complex and multifaceted, and a TV show meant for entertainment is not going to capture all of that. I have seen on social media quite a few of the cast have spoken out about this. This might be one of the most like unified casts I've seen and putting out statements on social media against bullying or harassment of any cast members. It's really not that serious. It's entertainment. It's a TV show. Listen to the cast members and take it as such. So let's go ahead and dive into episodes 7 through 9. These episodes covered the end of the honeymoons and then transitioning into the real world. And tell me why when they moved to the real world back in Charlotte, it felt like they were moving into like that dystopian neighborhood from Severance. I mean, they're kind of modern, I guess, but this reality show concept already feels a little dystopian, and then adding a very uniform looking neighborhood looks extra dystopian to me. So let's go couple by couple in the order they got engaged, starting with Amy and Johnny. They are our wholesome couple of the season. Seems like they are having some conflicts, but so far their edit feels very positive and like they are the most likely to say yes at the aisle. I've noticed throughout the seasons of Love is Blind that the music is almost a spoiler with how much it tells you about a couple. If there's a song with some negative emotions like we were in love but we're spinning in circles, everything's so hazy but love isn't always fair. If you have a song like that, it's over for the couple. But if the couple has like a super positive song that's like, I'm so in love, we're perfect for each other, life is a paradise with you, shit like that, the couple is gonna make it. So I feel like Amy and Johnny have been paying attention to the music and all of their songs are really positive. So I'm feeling pretty confident about them. I'm not saying 100%. I'm just saying based on the edit, it's telling me that Amy and Johnny are gonna make it. They have this one conversation I really appreciated. Johnny compliments Amy's natural hair because in the honeymoons we see she actually has curly hair. Another reason why I'm gonna project myself onto her. The similarities just keep coming between me and Amy. He says he really loves her curls, and at first she's like, really? And I so relate to that because my whole life growing up, I would straighten my hair all the time and people would always tell me how much better it looked straight. It was hard also to like make curls look good. Like there weren't as many resources for curly hair back then, or I wasn't aware of them. But anyway, cut to my current partner who, when I would straighten my hair, would say like, oh, I liked it better curly. When he first told me this, I was like absolutely shocked because no one in my life had ever told me, like, why did you straighten your hair? It looked better curly. It's something I find really sweet and endearing about him, and I feel like I saw myself in Amy in that moment where she's like, really? Like, I wonder if she was thinking, like, I never hear that, or I've never heard that before, because curly hair is not often appreciated. So I found that as like a very cute moment between them. He just seems very smitten by her, and it's very cute. In the relationship, Amy seems to be the more tentative one, and she mentions that she's nervous about her family's reactions, that in her past relationships, her family has been too involved and she's been like easily influenced by her family. And she says that she does not want to get married to Johnny if she doesn't have her dad's blessing. So that's setting up something for the final episodes that we will see. We saw in the teaser. That's one of the few things that could get in this couple's way. Once they get into the real world, they seem on the same page about a lot of things, but then they're on different pages about some other things. So they are on the same page that they both want to get a house soon, and that they both want kids eventually. Probably, she mentions like maybe 5 years from this time would be ideal for her. And he agrees. However, they do disagree a little bit on finances, because Johnny is one of these like retire early kind of people, which I admire those people. I looked into that fire stuff and it sounded really amazing in theory, like retire early, that's awesome. And then a nail polish sale comes up and, you know, my retire early plan goes out the door. So props to the people that can do that. That's kind of how Amy is. Surprise, surprise. She's a little bit like, life is meant to enjoy it, which I think if I can't resist a nail polish sale, I think I'm in her camp more than his. They were both kind of open though to balance each other out on the finances. When they visit Amy's home, Johnny expresses some concern over her being a crystals girl. Excuse me, sir, why do you have a problem with us? What do these crystals do to you? Are they not beautiful? I found it quite offensive. We are harmless, and the crystals are pretty. And I appreciated Amy's response. I was just like, I'm a crystal girl, and you're gonna like it. Period. So then we get to this couple's main actual conflict so far, and that revolves around birth control methods. We got a little bit of this conversation back in the honeymoons. Johnny had a conversation with Laura. I liked how Laura was like not so sneakily trying to get the tea for us. She was like, so you and Amy seem to really love each other. I'm sure you're like fucking 24/7 basically. A little clunky, but thanks Laura for getting us the tea. And we do get the tea that Johnny and Amy are not having sex because Amy's not on birth control. And he's just like, I've never dated a girl not on birth control. Must be nice to be a man and not have had to worry about this till now. But at first in that conversation, I was just like, why doesn't he use condoms? Is he so against that method of protection? And then later, once they're in the real world and expand on this conversation between Amy and Johnny, it sounds like he just doesn't fully trust condoms. But it's very interesting because Amy doesn't really want to do birth control. She's discussed it with her doctor. Some women react really terribly to birth control. There's a lot of hormones. It's very chemical. So like, I have heard of many women who struggle, and that's something men don't realize. Like, we have to try different things, see what works, see what side effects we can tolerate or we don't have or have. And there's doctor's visits, there's paying for pills or procedures. Birth control is a whole thing, and I'm glad they're having this conversation on Love is Blind, because I think men often have the privilege of just not thinking about it if the woman is on a chemical birth control method. But then Amy suggested he get a vasectomy as a potential solution. I was absolutely gagged by this. Whoa, new level of feminism unlocked. I never even thought of this suggestion. And it's like, yeah, why don't you get a vasectomy? Amy was like, this man is progressive, let's test it. Ironically, she is so mother for this. This the idea of, instead of the woman getting on some chemical birth control method, having the guy get a vasectomy and then reversing it once you want to have kids. I'm interested if Amy is going to open some doors with this, because What an icon. Realistically, do I think Johnny is going to get a vasectomy in like 2 weeks before the wedding? Because Amy says in her interview, like, they're not trying to wait till marriage, but also they need to solve this birth control thing because he doesn't trust condoms, or I guess any pull out or something, the other method, and she doesn't want to get on birth control. And also in this birth control conversation, they don't mention thoughts on abortion. I get the hunch she would not get an abortion for herself. Her Instagram bio says hija de Dios, if you know what I mean. They do talk about, like, what if we accidentally got pregnant in a year, and she's just like, we'll be fine because we'll have a house. And he's like, no, I want more financial stability. So they don't explicitly mention abortion, but it just feels like it's not really an option for them. They seem to be at this like kind of standstill, and the clock is ticking to the wedding day, and they're not trying to wait till they're married. What are they gonna do? Is he gonna schedule a vasectomy in a week? Can you do that? The questions I have after this conversation. I don't think he's gonna get vasectomies. I just appreciated a woman like turning it around on a guy for once. I already know the boys are gonna be up in arms about like, oh, how dare she? And it's like, no, I don't think anyone that has not experienced like having a uterus can comment on like the struggles of birth control and the whole hassle that it is for women. So that was fierce, and she better work. They also have a cute little dance lesson. This is another time where there's a very positive love song. They meet Johnny's younger sisters, who are adorable, and they're so excited. They're obsessed with Amy. They're like ready to say yes to her, like on behalf of him. So they're very cute. The only thing that concerns me is just Amy seems a tad tentative at times. I feel like it's really subtle, and with such a positive edit, it can be hard to pinpoint, but she was the one struggling more with like growing her physical affection towards him. So do I think this couple's gonna make it? I feel like if anyone does, it'll be them. She could just be a little bit like Lauren from season 1, where I was very doubtful she was gonna say yes, even though they were like the wholesome couple of the show. And like, she didn't always seem that into Cameron all the time. So I'm wondering if Amy is just more that style and she's gonna say yes, but she's just like, you know, being cautious and tentative where she needs to be, or maybe it's just her personality, she's a little shyer. But if I have hope for any couple, it has to be this one. Okay, so let's talk about Kenneth and Brittany. Rip this couple. They were the couple that did not make it through these episodes. Kenneth and Brittany were so weird because they seemed so strong in the pods. Their reveal went great. The beginning of their honeymoon seemed great. He was like so attentive at the beach party with everybody. And after the party, they do talk about Kenneth and AD's conversation about, you know, the struggles of Kenneth and Brittany being an interracial couple and her raising, you know, mixed children. And Brittany actually says, like, I'm very used to this. It kind of seems like she's dated black men in the past and had these conversations. She seems very aware of the challenges. She does keep saying, like, I identify as a white woman, or like AD identifies as a black woman, which I think is just like a weird quirk of hers. I'm not sure where that comes from or what to make of it, but I imagine like after the show, she's gonna like reflect on that and probably stop this. Kenneth in this conversation does seem concerned about like what are his friends and family back home gonna say, and he is worried about going into the real world. As we saw, he should be, even though we didn't even get to meet any of their family or friends at all. We get this incredibly awkward boat date between Brittany and Kenneth, still in the honeymoon. There's just a lot of silence. I don't know what happened between like that party and that boat date, but something did. I'm assuming he just like got the ick randomly from her for like something she did. It could have been super random. It could have been like he's not that attracted to her, not that into her after the first couple days of like excitement wearing off. But it just seems like he's totally checked out by the boat date. And she's trying really hard to like be engaged, like not engaged, but like engaged with their relationship. But he's just totally like cold to her, not saying a lot. The only times after this I saw like Kenneth excited was when they saw some dolphins on their way somewhere from the on that boat, and then when AD and Clay were like kissing in front of him and he was so excited about it. That was pretty much it. No more excitement from Kenneth. And this boat date was just painfully awkward. Like, the editing on it was honestly pretty brilliant. I feel like they really like made us feel like we were there and sitting in awkwardness. She's like, are you okay with me like touching you, touching your leg? And he's like, oh, I love it. I feel like I touch you too much. And she's just like, you don't touch me at all, barely, so you can touch me more. And he's just like, oh, I thought I was smothering you. And it's just total disconnect. Almost feels like he's gaslighting her a bit. Because he just, every time she brings something up, he just like invalidates it completely as like, that's not true. This is the truth. Just weird ass vibes. And then the vibes continue into the real world. Once they move in, it's like all over. Once Kenneth gets his phone, their devices back, he is locked into that phone. Straight up iPad baby level locked into that phone. Brittany's trying to unpack and move into their new apartment and he is just scrolling on his phone. Starts just like ignoring her, not answering her. It's interesting because I mentioned in last video that I couldn't believe this couple is Gen Z, but after seeing Kenneth like absorbed in his phone, the Gen Z jumped out a little bit more. And this moment told me everything I needed to know and made me totally turn on Kenneth. And I think a lot of the fans have turned on Kenneth by this point, but when they get home, she's like, what do you want for dinner? Do you want takeout or do you want to cook? And she's like, you want me to cook? And he's like, yeah, you cook. I want chicken. And she's like, oh, you want me to cook for you so I can enjoy my night? And he's like, well, enjoy the food together. Brittany, may I interest you in some feminism? Girl, get out of there. If someone's looking for a traditional partnership, this is a very real possibility that could happen. And if you're not down to be like a cook, a maid, for this head of household man, the super traditional lifestyle might not be for you. It is for some people, but she did not seem that pleased with like first night together, I'm cooking for you. His house is so bare bones. He doesn't have any food in the fridge. Like, I've never seen a fridge this empty unless I've moved out of home. He clearly is looking for someone to just step in and overhaul. So she tries to sort of bring up these concerns, how he doesn't seem as at peace in the real world, like in the honeymoons, how she's kind of worried about like his body language, and he just dismisses her. Every time she brings up feelings, he dismisses her, which is crazy because he had told her like, I want to check in every night. That's what I'm saying. I feel like something turned him off of Brittany at some point before that boat date. He just doesn't care about the relationship at all. And yeah, when she brings up concerns, he's like, I'm into you. You're just overanalyzing. And even in her interview, she's saying like, we talked about how I overanalyze things, I overthink things. It's just like, girl, you're being brainwashed. Get the fuck out of there. It just feels like she's getting nothing in the relationship, which is a big switch up from how it was in the pods and honeymoons. But then they have their final conversation where again, Brittany brings up these issues. Apparently he got home at 1:30 in the morning, woke her up, left all the lights on, did not apologize, did not say anything, and she brings it up also so like giggly, so nice, like very like people pleasy of her. She's not even like confronting him like, you woke me up and that's fucked up. She's like, oh, let's talk about how you silly woke me up in the middle of the night and I had to go to work like at 6 in the morning and ha ha ha. He keeps giving like excuses of like, well, I'm not gonna be, you know, super happy every day, super peppy, and you're not either. This day I just wasn't that peppy. I wasn't in this mood. I was feeling affectionate at 1 in the morning when I came and woke you up, but you weren't. Yeah, because she was sleeping, you dumbass. Of course she's not feeling affectionate or in a mood. She's literally unconscious. Like, what do you want? And he's like, but I accepted that. That's why every single time she brings up something, he's like, Uno reverse. No, you're not accepting me. You're not attracted to me. You're not craving me. And honestly, he like says that to the point where she's like, yeah, I guess I'm not craving you that much and I don't have that burning desire. It's very clear that he was not willing to compromise at all. And that tells me like he's not ready for marriage, because you have to compromise on some things. If a partner brings up a concern, you have to like adjust yourself to an extent to accommodate that person's needs. That's part of being in a partnership. And he's just like willing like 0% to change, compromise, improve himself. Like he's just living his life, wanting her to cook and scrolling on his phone. And at the end of this conversation, he's just like, we just shouldn't be together, I guess. And she's just like super emotional crying, but she's like, okay. And so they just break up and he's like, there's no beef. He seemed checked out all the way from the boat. Like he probably should have initiated the breakup, but he was waiting, I guess, for her to bring it up or see if he could get away with just like not changing anything about his life and just having a live-in cook and maid. If he cared about the relationship at all, he would have tried to save it. He would have put in an effort. Honestly, as much as Kenneth was very annoying about how he treated Brittany, I think more Love is Blind couples need to call it quits the way he did at the end of this argument. We as the audience, we want them to fight for the love and all that, but like a lot of the time they just find out like they're incompatible, there's issues they can't get past, and in this case he was just like, okay, I'm out. But I think a lot of them want to make it to the altar, and I feel like even they get like a bonus, like a cash bonus. I feel like I've heard of that. So they're over. Kenneth and Brittany, bye. See y'all at the reunion, I guess. Let's move on to Clay and AD. We're starting with our messy couples now. I mean, I guess Kenneth and Brittany were a little messy, but Clay and AD, oh, Clay and AD. I love AD so much. She's such a glamour girl. Love me the glamour girls. But Clay, Clay is such a bonehead, honestly. The man has 2 brain cells like fighting for dear life in there. And he's so like funny, but he's so not ready for marriage. They have this day in the honeymoons. It's like by the beach, and you can see like in real time AD getting the ick by Clay being locked in on his soup. She goes on a whole face journey. It was everything. It just got a little bit awkward in this date because it starts off he's very happy, charismatic as usual, and then he gets quiet, introspective, and is, you know, fiddling, obsessed with the soup, and then fiddling with the plates. And AD confronts him right away. It's a very different approach than Brittany had, where she was more like feeling it out and being very like nice about it, people-pleasy about it. AD was a lot more like direct about it and was like, why did you just switch up so much? And he is concerned about just the idea of marriage, it seems like. He doesn't really get into it yet on this date, but he's a little bit like, I just don't want to let you down. And this becomes a running theme with Clay, these episodes. AD does get her apology tour from the other people. Jimmy apologizes for, you know, commenting on her ass, but says like, oh, that helped my relationship in the long run. And AD's like, glad my ass helped your relationship. Great. Next. And then Jeramy comes in and tells AD like, so sorry for the bean dip thing. And Laura should have apologized too, because she was more of the instigator of the bean dip thing, but at least Jeramy did. In this apology tour though, Jeramy does help her realize that Clay has these moments of introspection, and it was a thing he had like back in the men's quarters too. And AD kind of feels a little bit comforted that this is just like how Clay is. But once they get to the real world, we figure out a little more about Clay's introspection, what he's thinking about, because he talks about his family and his parents got divorced after like 24 years of marriage. Clay's story that he revealed here was pretty tragic in a way. He talks about his dad and how he was cheating on his mom throughout his whole life, and that sometimes his dad would take him on his infidelity trips. That's something he has not told his mom about, at least about some of the trips. And she's gonna find out now. Shit. The poor mom watching the Love is Blind, just trying to see her son on TV. But anyway, it's so sad that like his dad, like he's not just a cheater, but he's also like modeling that behavior to his young son, almost as like a this is how it's done kind of thing. And Clay talks about how he has never seen a black relationship without infidelity, even in like celebrities. It's sad with Clay because he seems so like well-intentioned, but also like this is kind of a big unresolved trauma. He keeps saying like he wants to do therapy, but he's not in therapy yet, and it's not AD's job to fix him when she has done so much work on herself and gone to therapy. I have empathy for Clay, and I feel like that's a very strange situation to grow up in. But he keeps bringing up he's like concerned about cheating a little bit, or like implying it at least. Anytime a man is talking about resisting temptations and he's worried about it, worried about letting you down, girl, run. Because it is only a matter of time before he cheats. They've been together like a week. If he's already thinking about like worrying about temptation, and if he's in the wrong place at the wrong time, like what could happen, it's like he's not ready for the ultimate monogamous institution of marriage. I feel for him because he seems like he's aware, he seems like he wants to try, but I worry he still has some slip-ups left and mistakes to make before he gets a wake-up call about this, or maybe he never will. I mean, look at the men on Vanderpump Rules who just well into their later decades, they're still cheating. Like, some men never change. At least he's aware of it. He's aware he could and should get help, but will he? I don't know. I don't think AD is worth like hurting for him to like learn lessons on monogamy. So I really don't want this couple to work out, and I don't think they will. They do have other sweet moments when they see his house. Clay actually has a really nice house. I got a kick out of him having like a vision board hanging up in his home. It felt very like influencer girly of him. I love it. It's very cute, and AD was like, I want to show you mine. So they're very cute together. They have like a good rapport. Clay is just really funny. AD is really funny. They're both like very charismatic and very hot people, but they're already having issues. Like when they go meet Clay's mom and sister, who are very nice and everything, AD and Clay start kind of bickering about his schedule, his work schedule. He's an entrepreneur. He's like hustling a lot. So she's kind of feeling like a little bit neglected and like they're not making time for each other. She also works nightlife and is a realtor. So she has weird hours. I think he has weird hours. There was like one night he didn't come home at all, which if he's already like concerned about cheating and he's not coming home some nights, he gave some work excuse for it, but like it's better safe than sorry and not marry this man if you're having this level of issues this early. But he's frustrated too because I'm assuming still kind of off work with the show. Like she took time off because she's not really working at that time and it hasn't returned to work yet. She just has a lot of time on her hands. But his mom does step in and is like, you know, if you really care about the relationship, you'll make time. And I agree with that. And I don't know if the producers gave these couples like another incentive or something, but I feel like almost all the couples were like bickering in front of friends and family. So will this couple make it? I don't think so. I think AD is smart enough to say no. Maybe he will be too and say no. I think they do make it to the altar from what we can see in the preview. In the preview, he also mentions like still concerns about cheating. I think that's their main issue, and I don't think he's ready for monogamy. And that can be okay. Just don't propose to someone and get married. Not rooting for them as a couple, but individually, rooting for their own journeys. Next, let's talk about Chelsea and Jimmy. Okay, they're our messiest couple by far. Oh my god, they're still on the struggle bus. I'm so sorry to them. I'm starting to worry that Jimmy and Chelsea are gonna say yes at the altar. There's always that one couple every season, almost every season, that I'm just like, these people are toxic and should not be together. And then at the end, they say yes and get married. And I'm like, what? But they do. And I think Chelsea and Jimmy could be that couple. I hope not, but they might be. So the cliffhanger of episode 6 was Chelsea and Jimmy's first big fight. It was after the party where he was kind of flirting with AD, not paying attention to her all night. After this fight, they're a lot more calm. And they hug it out. They reconcile. And they're still very like, I love you, I love you, I love you. Chelsea and Jimmy are so weird because they spend like half the time telling everyone how perfect they are together.
He said it's been like literally almost perfect. Like literally.
And then the other half of the time fighting.
This is bullshit. This is fucking bullshit. This fucking
rude. Is the perfect relationship in the room with us now? Because I'm not seeing it. They are physically intimate though at a certain point in the honeymoons. Also, AD and Clay are intimate, and Laura and Jeramy are intimate in the honeymoons. The girls admit it to each other. The whole group in the honeymoon has another like mingling thing. It's more like a daytime beach day, and it is there that Jimmy eats some taquitos. I did not think this scene was noteworthy at all, but it becomes so much bigger than just a B-roll shot in between conversations. When they get back to the hotel from the beach, they talk about their most favorite and least favorite parts of the honeymoon. His least favorite part was he was eating these taquitos and he was so excited about them that he bit his lip very hard. Chelsea's kind of like, was our fight not the least favorite thing? And he's like, no, that helped us. I'm starting to worry this couple, like, they're just used to fighting in relationships and making up, fighting, making up. And that's like the dynamic they're okay with. Again, Jimmy just, he's so annoying for Chelsea, I think, because he keeps saying he's so happy, he loves her, all the things, but then he says things that are not the things she wants to hear and don't feel validating of their relationship. So when he's saying his favorite part of the trip, he says, oh, when we were riding the buggies, the golf cart things, like adventuring out. She's just like, my favorite part was you being nice to me this morning. It's so sad. Like, Jimmy just doesn't seem into her at all, but he won't admit it at all. So, like, she's just stuck in this loop of, like, asking him a million questions to get him to, like, finally be honest. But it's like her insecurity makes her ask so much. And he's giving off real vibes that she's picking up on, that he's not into her, but he's not saying it. So she's just asking it over and over. It's just, like, this toxic loop that they're through these episodes are not able to really get out of. Obviously she wanted him to say like, my favorite part was, you know, waking up next to you, being intimate, making love, having XYZ conversation with you, like anything that had to do with her, but it was more just like this activity we did. That's not what she wants to hear. Once they move to the real world, Jimmy's subtle hatred of Chelsea continues. They go to see Chelsea's apartment and he doesn't like her overly energetic roommate, who I felt bad for. Like, this roommate came in with balloons. She was very happy for them. And he's just like, she's too much. I could never live with her. Like, fuck that bitch. Not really, but still. They go see Jimmy's apartment and Chelsea is more into like moving in there, even though it's a studio apartment. It's kind of small. And Jimmy's concerned because he works from home, so they'd be like in the same room all day, every day. She's just like, it's fine, I'll just go to a coffee shop when you have meetings. And it's like, girl, you're not gonna go to no coffee shop when he's in meetings, like, all the time, all day, every day. Like, it sounds cute in theory, but in practice, I feel like people don't do that, like, every day, multiple times a day. So then we meet Chelsea's girlfriends, and at first, it's just Chelsea and her friends, which is fun. It felt like I was in their cheeseman session with them. They were like spilling the tea and I was like, I love the friend that just comes in and is like, I brought the wine. Even though I don't drink wine, I love that friend in every friend group. I found it interesting that Chelsea talked a lot about Trevor at first to her friends, and it almost felt like the friends were falling in love with Trevor, because Chelsea's talking about like her pod journey and she was between two people, and Trevor was so funny. They were always laughing, always positive. He had a mullet, and the friends were just kind of like, what happened here? And then she starts talking about Jimmy, and her friend is like, does he look like you thought he would? And she's like, no. Chelsea also spills the tea that apparently Jimmy saw Jessica's profile on social media. So I have a bone to pick with the producers. I was promised some choking these episodes, and I did not get any choking. Because the moment we were waiting for as the audience, the most anticipated moment of these episodes, happened off camera. Producers, what happened? Y'all are sleeping. All we wanted as the audience was to see Jimmy's reaction to first seeing what Jessica looks like. Producers dropped the ball hard. You know the producers are pissed. They had a strict talking to with Jimmy and Jeramy and whoever else was spreading social media profiles to each other. That was a money shot for the season, and they fumbled it completely. We did not see Jimmy's reaction. The first we hear of it is Chelsea saying Jimmy saw Jessica on social media and telling her girls that like she's just worried because she's stunning and she doesn't know if he's gonna like regret choosing her, basically. And again, Chelsea's insecurity spiral, like I see it, I feel it. She hasn't been given like any proof that Jimmy is wanting to leave her for Jessica. It's hard. Jessica is very beautiful. It's hard as the women in the quarters not to compare themselves to each other. And a lot of y'all had the theory of Chelsea chose Jimmy because Jessica and maybe other women were more into Jimmy while other women weren't as into Trevor. She felt like, oh, if someone like Jessica is into Jimmy, like that must mean Jimmy might be a better guy. Like there's just like more competition over him, so psychologically your mind might go to like, this man is the better choice. And I think that's a very valid theory. And so Jimmy comes in to meet the girlfriends. Somehow it comes up that like Jimmy is not Chelsea's typical type. And of course Jimmy uses this moment to be like, well, she told me she looked like Megan Fox. So he doesn't say it explicitly like that, but it did feel like a dig, like the friends kind of bruised his ego a little bit, saying like, oh, you're not Chelsea's type at all. So he was like, I'm gonna retaliate and bring up the Megan Fox thing. Chelsea does this thing where she's like, hell yeah, brother. And apparently Jimmy hates that she does that. Can y'all tell me if that's a reference to something? Because I don't get the reference. I'm assuming it's like a quote from like a Will Ferrell movie or something. Or did she make that? Is that like the phrase she's trying to coin and sell t-shirts of? So the next time we see Chelsea and Jimmy, they have a pretty big argument. She confronts him about like him not kissing her all day that day, and he says like he did kiss her twice. I did find that strange, and like Chelsea is more in her head than we're realizing, because she didn't realize these kisses happened. The act of like counting kisses throughout the day feels very like insecure. And then not even realizing he like did try to kiss her a couple times. Chelsea, of course, brings up the Jessica thing and is like, ever since you saw her picture, you've changed. And he denies this. He maintains he's happy. He chose her. He's 100% in with her. He's pretending it didn't faze him to see Jessica. He's just like, she looked like a Kardashian. And she's just saying like, I'm concerned the way you say I love you is too casual. He can't say I love you as much to her because he bit his lip like 3 days ago eating the taquitos from earlier. And that's why he's not kissing her. That's why he's not saying I love you, because it hurts to talk. I gotta give him points for creativity on the excuse, but we're not buying it. I do think she's totally insecure and letting that overtake her. But also, I do think the vibes are real that he's not that into her. It's just so hard because he's saying he's totally into her, he's happy. She finally does break him down, and he says she is being clingy for asking so much for him to show love in all these different ways. And obviously she gets really offended. He ends up kind of backtracking and being like, you're not clingy always, you're just the past couple days you've been clingy. She maintains that he started digging for problems after he saw Jess. She's just mad because she's put in all this effort. She says she made dinner all by herself for both of them. She watched his TV show, which I'm dying to know what the TV show was that he made her watch. I welcome any theories in the comments. What was the TV show Jimmy forced Chelsea to watch? That she like rubbed it in his face like, I watched your TV show. Do you think it was Breaking Bad? Do you think it was like Duck Dynasty or something? What TV show did she find like a pain to sit through to like rub it in his face in a fight? Put your theories below. She says she made him dinner, watched his TV show, and had sex with him. Jimmy pulls out the big guns, and it was so out of pocket. He said, you're the one who wanted to have sex, and maybe I need a breather from that too. What more evidence is there that he's not that into her? For this type of man to be mad about having sex, I feel like the calls are coming from inside the house. Of course, after that comment, she feels super disrespected. She says she's leaving, and he ends up actually leaving, and she stays there. The next morning, though, they have a conversation very calmly about what happened. Again, they reconcile from this fight. It sounds like that after he left, he like texted her like, I still love you, and it was reassuring. And that probably had a lot to do with her putting her guns down and being more chill in the morning. Also, maybe they were drunk. I think they went out to dinner that night or something. And maybe when they were fighting, they were tipsy. Sometimes when they have a fight and they reconcile, I wonder if like alcohol played a part in the fight. Because I want to be forgiving him for those comments, like saying I'm clingy, and then on top of it saying like, I didn't even want to have sex with you. The next morning he does bring up, you said you weren't going to initiate sex anymore, and I want you to know, like, I want you to please still initiate. So he like regrets that comment. He does apologize. He acknowledges he was disrespectful. He wants to make her happy. He wants to be with her forever. Again, saying all the right things. And that's what makes me feel like this couple is maybe gonna say yes at the altar. Like, this could be another Kwame and Chelsea situation. If I had a nickel for any time a girl named Chelsea is engaged to a man that looks like he's in a hostage situation all the time on Love is Blind, I would have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. Isn't it weird as Chelsea again having the man that's not that into her? I do think Chelsea and Jimmy have bigger problems than Chelsea and Kwame have. They have way nastier fights. Chelsea and Kwame just seemed like incompatible lifestyle wise and seemed to like not agree on life things they wanted to do, but it wasn't like you're not into me and fighting about like love triangle stuff or anything like that. So I do want to give Kwame and Chelsea their credit because they're still married and happily it seems. But I could also see Chelsea and Jimmy pulling that and surprising us, saying yes at the altar. I hope not. I think their fights and dynamic is just toxic enough. One of them will say no. I just feel like at this point, he should have cut it off if he's not that into her. She's called it out for like 2 weeks at this point or something. If he was planning to say no at the altar, he would have cut it off by now. But maybe she'll say no at the altar because she's feeling insecure in their relationship. Who knows? But they do make it to the altar. One final thing we need to talk about with Chelsea and Jimmy is they met Jimmy's 2 best friends, who are 2 women. And Chelsea was a little nervous about this because it's 2 women, which was kind of strange. And she asked him, like, how long have you known them? And he's like, 2 years. And Chelsea's like, wow, 2 years? That's like post-pandemic friendships. Like, are they that tight? I don't know. Y'all gotta tell me the tea, because raise your hand if you are sus of Barbara. What was going on there? Maddie and Barbara, they have this very strong friendship with Jimmy, even though it's only a 2-year friendship. They seem very protective. They keep saying they're like his older sisters. They raised him right. They have to approve of whatever girl he's with. Immediately when we met them, I got this vibe that I started realizing, remembering the teaser and thinking about the, you fucked her, I know you fucked her. Chelsea yells that at Jimmy. I think it's gonna be about one of these girls. And I was looking at Maddie and Barbara and I was like, which one of them do I think it is? I don't have much to go off of, but I think it's going to be Barbara because she had the cleavage out. That's why her cleavage is so big. It's full of secrets. No, I just think she gave off a little bit more of the vibes at Jimmy. When they were talking about him, Barbara especially seemed so familiar with Jimmy that it feels like things an ex-girlfriend might be aware of. She talks about how he's a crier during sex, and that was kind of a joke because Chelsea kind of implies he cried during sex. I still don't know if it was a joke or serious, but Barbara's like, oh yeah, he's a crier. He's so emotional. Chelsea and Jimmy, again, they're airing out all their beef in front of his friends. She also tells them about the initiating sex conversation they had like that morning. It was definitely awkward because it was giving like picking a fight in front of people, and his friends are just like, haha, moving on. But during the sex conversation, Barbara's like, oh, Jimmy would never turn down sex. Are you kidding me? I'm just saying, something went down. Barbara also talks about how Jimmy is super dependent because Chelsea airs out that he called her clingy. And Barbara and Maddie are like, are you kidding me? And Barbara's like, he's super dependent on whoever he's with. If she didn't touch his leg in the bed, he thinks she's mad at him or something. She knew him a little too well. I think something went on. And at least one of these girls, I think, is going to be who Chelsea is yelling at Jimmy about. I don't know if the you fucked her thing happens during this engagement. I don't see that necessarily happening, and maybe it could. Or if it's like you fucked her in the past kind of deal. I definitely think in the past something went down with Barbara or Maddie, but probably Barbara in my opinion. And I feel bad for Chelsea because she talks about how in her past boyfriends have cheated on her with their close girlfriends. Normally she doesn't have a problem with it because she has close guy friends, but like she does have some trauma there. So that's probably why she's going to be yelling at him. We will see if like there's actual evidence that Jimmy is fucking around with somebody. We haven't seen the last of Barbara. It was so awkward. Like his friends like kind of vocally approved of Chelsea, but their eyes and their vibes were like, I don't know about this. Barbara was like, she seems to really love Jimmy for sure, so that's good. Ew. They don't seem to approve that much. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see Jimmy actually meet Jessica, even though they teased it in so many things. We know they're gonna see each other. He does say he's attracted to Jessica, and we do get an update on Jessica. Let me just add that to this part because it's more about her. Jessica meets up with Laura. Jessica talks about how Jimmy sent her a friend request and she saw it but didn't respond to it, and then he withdrew it. So then she couldn't see his profile, but by then she had already seen his face. And Laura, she's like, were you not repulsed by him? Jessica's like, no. All it would take is his voice. I'll just close my eyes. Even if he was butt ugly, his voice would do it for me. Which I do think Jessica is playing it up for the cameras. She's just like an in the spotlight kind of girl. Like I said before, most of the cast here is on Love is Blind. AD and Clay are on Too Hot to Handle. And Jessica is on Bravo. Like she is operating at Bravo levels of country, of looks, of personality and humor. And I just feel like Jessica is ready to capitalize on this opportunity of Love is Blind. I do think she like wants to meet Jimmy and just like have the moment, but I think it's more about having the moment and the storyline for TV and the spotlight and just like making the most out of her moment than like really making some sort of big relationship work with Jimmy. If she feels the spark, she feels it, but like, I don't know. I feel like Jessica has her eyes set on the prize, which is the bigger like stardom of it all, and she just has the looks and the personality. If she plays her cards right, she could get some good opportunities after Love is Blind. But as far as these episodes go, she says she's very open to meeting Jimmy. She's still not over him, still in love. Her daughter Autumn was very shocked that a man didn't choose her. I'm sure Jessica's not used to rejection at all, and by proxy Autumn isn't. Also, I'm not totally buying Jessica's like, I hope Jimmy's in love with Chelsea for her sake. It's like, you don't hope that. You hope there's drama. She's also like, I feel like if I see him in person, it's just like dangling temptation over him. I love Jessica. I know people have their mixed feelings about her. She is not the amazing moral compass at all on the show, but she is good TV and she is funny. I support Glamour Girl rights and I support Glamour Girl wrongs. It is what it is. But as of right now, I think Chelsea and Jimmy might say yes at the altar. I don't know. It's just a vibe. I hope they don't. So finally, let's talk about our last couple, and that is Jeramy and Laura. This couple got messy. They got really messy by the end. They have this big fight at the party we last saw them at, and the next day they talk it out because he slept on the couch, he iced her out, he would not talk to her. She was 100% in on him before this fight, and then after she's like totally questioning their relationship because of how he handled it. Even though she had a big part to play in the bean dip thing, he says she didn't do anything wrong and that he needs to handle conflict better. After this conversation, I had a little hope for this couple. I was like, okay, maybe they're more mature than I thought. But oh no, they soon proved me wrong. Another crack that's happening with this couple is Jeramy has a conversation with Amy about how you know, things ended with Sarah Ann and how he maybe wants to see her in the real world because at least he could see them being friends. Boy, how are you going to be friends with someone you were almost engaged to while you're engaged to somebody else? And it's just a recipe for disaster. And Amy sees it right away. She's just like, oop. Once they move to the real world, Jeramy and Laura seem on similar pages, at least about cleanliness. Once they see his home, my God, he was not lying about his house being immaculate. He saw season 3 and he said, I am not going to be caught up like Cole. I am not going to be ridiculed on international television. I'm going to have a serial killer level clean home. I was honestly shocked that he was telling the truth. Like, there is no other word for this home other than immaculate. He had like matching silverware like Izzy could never. Laura is even weirded out by how clean it is. Like, she kept emphasizing like she has OCD, she wants everything super clean and organized, and like I think even Jeramy beat her to it, and she was kind of like, oh my God, you put my stuff to shame. At first I thought it was staged, and then Laura mentions like, this looks staged, and I was like, oh, maybe it's not, because even she's concerned about this. I don't know how Jeramy has the time. I don't know how anyone has the time to have this level of clean home, even with 2 robot vacuums going. And we finally see Jeramy's CPAP machine. I don't know why he didn't bring it to the pods. I feel like you need it, but Laura was not attracted to it. Jeramy and Laura have this like roasting kind of relationship where they're just roasting each other constantly. I mentioned this in my previous video, but I don't like relationships like this. Not even just romantic, but like friendships like this, family relation, whatever the relationship type is. I hate when it's like constant roasting. I know it works for some people, but like it gets exhausting after a while, I think. Jeramy and Laura just especially Laura is constantly like roasting him. And once they meet Laura's parents, I thought it was wild that even Laura's family was kind of like, good for Jeramy, like he puts up with her bullshit, basically. Like I could tell her parents are annoyed with her, and it's like, girl, oof. Jeramy might be obnoxious and hyper, but Laura kind of matches him in other ways of like always being roasting and being just kind of immature about like picking on him so much to the point where it's like just not funny anymore. Like the way she has mentioned Hawaiian shirts every 5 seconds. I know everyone in the room is so tired of it. She just will not let it go that he wears Hawaiian shirts. And I have not seen this man wear a Hawaiian shirt once. Maybe he has and I forgot, but like I don't remember it. Probably because she hasn't let him. It's just like, who cares? It's a fucking shirt. Like, yeah, and even her sister, I don't know if it's her sister or sister-in-law, like talks to her one-on-one and is like, you know, I like the Hawaiian shirt thing, not because I love Hawaiian shirts, but because I like seeing someone excited about something harmless. It's a little thing, but if he likes it, like, just support it. It's all about what you can tolerate. And the sister's kind of implying, like, this is an easy thing to tolerate. Like, get the fuck over it. But Laura can't, and she still roasts him for a Hawaiian shirt every chance she gets. I think her parents have a good read on the situation. Laura and Jeramy also, in front of her parents, talk about Sarah Ann and her DMing Jeramy, which is something Laura talked to Jessica about. We saw that earlier. Sarah Ann DM'd Jeramy saying like, oh, I loved our connection, blah, blah, blah. And it was all good until the end of the message. She's like, if you have doubts or change your mind, let me know. I'm willing to meet up in person. Laura, of course, thinks it's super out of pocket. Jeramy just like liked the message. Laura at first is like, this is fine because Jeremy is being transparent about it. But later on, we find out it's not so good and dandy because we end episode 9 with a confrontation between Laura and Jeramy. The morning after Jeramy was up all night, he is wearing sunglasses, looks hungover as hell. I can't believe producers dropped the ball twice in this major of a way. But apparently he went to hang out late that previous night with people from the pod squad. On his way there, they told them like Sarah Ann is gonna be there. Thought about turning around, but he didn't because he was like, well, you know, I'm going to confront Sarah Ann, whatever unresolved thing she has, we'll talk it out. And then he didn't come home until 5 a.m. And of course, Laura is pissed, asking where he was. Bars close at 2. She knows Sarah Ann was there. Why did no one think to call the cameras or producers? This conversation between Jeramy and Sarah Ann should have been on camera. Like, how did we miss Jimmy seeing Jessica for the first time, and then Jeramy talking to Sarah Ann for the first time, seeing her for the first time in person, and whatever else happened that night that was super shady. Jeramy defends himself like nothing happened, goes through what happened in the night. He says, I was just talking to Sarah Ann. And Laura was like, till 5 a.m. And that's what we saw in the preview. And he's like, yes. He's like, I shared my location with you. I'm being transparent. And she's like, I'm just supposed to like track your location all the time? That's not what I want to be doing. And Laura's just pissed that Jeramy has not shut it down with Sarah Ann. Jeramy didn't text Laura about his whereabouts or anything. He says he was in the parking lot of the bar. She calls bullshit and is like, you shared your location. You think I didn't look? You were in Sarah Ann's area of town. And he doesn't say anything and she walks away. I think it's pretty clear Jeramy hooked up with Sarah Ann. It's obvious. I've seen some debate online, but I'm like, girl, it's fucking obvious. You think they were talking till 5 a.m.? You think they were like playing Scrabble all night? No, obviously not. I find it so weird. Why was Jeramy like touting like I shared my location with you, but then he was at Sarah Ann's house? Hello? Even if he was in the parking lot, which he wasn't, a lot of things can happen in a car late at night with 2 people, if you catch my drift. That's where we leave it off. I think Laura and Jeramy are not gonna make it to the altar and say yes. This is something that there's not much coming back from. We do see that in the teaser they go to a party. It seems like they're still together. But Sarah Ann is there, and we do see that Sarah Ann says that Jeramy said he's gonna break it off with Laura. Sarah Ann's basically a mistress saying he's gonna leave his wife for me. And she says this out loud to someone at the party. That's a big deal. So I think this betrayal and like obvious evidence is enough to break this couple up for good. I don't think they're the type of couple that's like kind of toxic but is gonna say yes anyway at the altar. If he's cheating this soon, like, it's over. They haven't invested that much time. That's the thing with these Love is Blind couples. And I feel like more of these people should take the Kenneth route in the breakup conversation at least, and just call it instead of just like dragging this shit on and cheating. It's better to just be like, you know what, this isn't working, no beef, let's break up. And I think Sarah Ann is just there for the limelight as well. She seems like she's happy for more screen time, more camera time, happy to home wreck, like, and all in good fun. The stakes of these relationships to me are not that big yet, because these people have not sunk that much time in the grand scheme. I would love to hear your thoughts on episodes 7 through 9. What are you thinking about the couples left? Who do you think is going to make it to marriage? I would love to hear it in the comments below. Y'all had some very interesting thoughts on the last batch of episodes, so excited to keep discussing it with y'all. Honestly, I've been going through kind of a rough year so far, 2024, so escaping into this show and having y'all to like talk about it with has really kept me going. So I really appreciate y'all if y'all watch this far. Always happy to escape into some reality TV and people who are messing up their lives for our entertainment. I'm excited to see all the confrontations with Pod Squad next batch of episodes. I will be making a part 3 next week for the next batch of episodes, and then I will be having a live stream on March 6th, probably in the evening, probably around 8:30 Central Time, so that I can watch Survivor that night. And give y'all a chance to watch the finale in the evening before the stream. But yeah, it looks like March 6th is our date for the finale of the season. And then reunion date usually is announced later on. I'll probably do a live stream for the reunion as well. And if you're new here, welcome. I got a few comments last video about new subscribers. I really appreciate y'all anytime people subscribe. We're all trauma bonding watching these messy ass relationships. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed. I put out new videos whenever I feel like it about TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things. And you can follow me at Miscellaneous on Instagram or Twitter to find out about new videos, or just turn on the bell notification here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!